Economic Development Committee, April 24th, 2025.
I will call on Economic Development's order at 6:01 p.m. Members present are Vicki DeShawn, Christopher Moritz, Clarissa Slater, and myself, Zion Hickman, Chair. Do we have any public participation for economic development?
This is economic development?
Yes.
A few weeks ago, you asked for ideas for increasing revenue.
State your name and address. Sorry.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
State your name and address. Sorry.
Okay, I've got a couple ideas for raising some revenue. Okay.
Al, you need to state your name and your residential address.
My name's Al Frazier. I live at 720 Dudley Street. We good?
Yes.
Sorry, Al.
Okay. We know that our safety forces are the biggest drain on our finances, correct? Okay? I'm going to say some things here about our fire department that nobody's going to like me for saying, but I'm going to say it, okay? They've been treated, ever since 9/11, all firemen are heroes, okay? They're looked upon as heroes. They deserve this, and this, because they're heroes. I'm here to plainly state they are not necessarily heroes, okay? Here's my definition of a hero. You walk by a burning house, you run in and you save the kid and the mother. You're a hero. A fireman chose to be a fireman. Well-equipped, well-trained, well-remunerated, okay? They're no different than any other city employee, but they get the world handed to them, okay? We've got to stop that if we want to start saving our money and spending it properly, okay? We have fires around town, okay? I don't know how many fires we have a year, but I'm here to tell you, you go around and look at these properties that have caught on fire. How many has our fire department saved that could be remodeled and rebuilt and lived in again? Not very many. I can guarantee you, I know of one on the corner of Lane and Mary across from Kroger's. That building caught on fire and they remodeled it and moved back into it. Not very many other ones have. Okay, I know a lot of old sayings. Here's an old saying that used to go around this building up here quite a bit. Our fire department, they're basement savers. Okay? You guys can not like me all you want to. That's the old saying that used to go around City Hall here a lot. They're basement savers. But we're going to give them the world. How many people in this room have ever worked at a job where you got paid to sleep?
Have you ever done the job, sir? You're out of line right now.
Point of order.
You are out of line.
Point of order.
Excuse me?
You are absolutely out of line.
Guys,
Wow.
Point of order.
guys,
What did I say was out of line, sir?
You know the first thing about
Zion, point of
PTSD?
order.
Rule on the point of order.
What are you
This is
talking
breaking the rules. It's a disruption to public speaking. Can you please give the person
I'll
a
give
point
you
of order?
both a
What are you
first
talking about
warning.
being out of order?
What do you mean? He's breaking the
Turn the
rules.
clock on, like you usually have the clock on.
There's no clock for committee meetings.
I know
Point
that.
of
That's
order.
why I'm here.
Point of order
That's
again.
why I don't
Point
go
of
to
order again.
committee meetings.
This is a committee meeting.
I don't like
The
a
point
timer
of order
on
is
my
that this
First
is not
Amendment rights.
okay. He has
Okay.
the floor. It's his
All right, I'll
speech.
move on. Finances, okay? Are you guys aware that there's a baseball club here in town that has big tournaments out in All Miller? I didn't think so. Okay, drive out there while there's a big tournament going on. They stop you going into our city park and want to charge you $5 a park. Is the city getting any of that money? Check into it, sir, would you? Okay, they stop. They stop you. We want $5. I said, I'm not going to the baseball games. Oh, okay, we'll go on. Okay, if I hadn't have told him, if I'd have handed him $5, then he took my $5. The city needs to get some of that because they're charging those teams $500 to play in that tournament. Somebody's making a lot of money and we're not getting a penny of it. Well, was I out of line?
Sir,
Okay?
I understand that that was uncalled for, and I will apologize on his behalf. If we can just take a deep
That's
breath,
fine. I
please.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay? Saturday, go out to the baseball tournament. There's so many cars parked there, you can't hardly get around it because the people from out of town don't understand it. That's a one-way road. So here comes cars at you. You got to get off. Barely enough room to pass an oncoming car going the wrong way. Okay? All the time. The park is packed. Okay? I look over there along the river. There's 2 huge motorhomes sitting there. They're camping at our park. Check into that, would you, sir? See if we can't get some money out of the camping at All Miller Park. Nobody knows anything about it. I tell you, you folks, I've got to say, is there no shame? Mr. Hickman, you sat there, dozed off during the whole end of that ad hoc meeting, pissed about something. Come on, you got elected to serve the people, okay? Try to do a little bit better. Try to do something constructive for us, okay? The street project. Can I just go ahead and finish my talk right here through this one committee? Because I want to go to service. I want to go to public lands and buildings if I have to, or can I just do it right here? Because I want to show you all some pictures. You want the street levy passed, okay?
Excuse me,
Our
sir,
street,
you
I
have
live
to
on
leave.
Dudley Street. It was just done last
Zion,
year.
this is your meeting.
Pardon?
It's your meeting, Zion.
Did you have something to say, Mr. Gilbert?
He needs to wait
Hey,
and do it in each individual.
I'll be done now if I'm irritating you folks, okay?
Al, you're not irritating us, it's just
It's
certain
just
ones should be done in certain.
All right, Dudley Street got redone. Here's a question for all of you. We want the street levy passed. Is any of the street levy money been used on separation? Sewer separation mandated by the EPA. Has our street levy money been used for those projects?
It can be used for the resurfacing of
The resurfacing only, okay. So that's the way it should be. Our street was done, okay, I'll show you these if you don't mind. I sanitized my phone before I brought it. And I'm trying not to be wholly negative, okay?
Mr.
The service director has been on property. He's
Frazier.
been respectful.
Is this for service?
Excuse me?
Is this for service? Is this for service? Service?
Whatever, like I said, if you want me to
Yeah.
come back up for
If you
service.
could, please. I would like to hear what you have to
I'll
say.
do
I
that
just-
then.
Thank you.
Okay, those are my suggestions for helping us make some more money. A history lesson. You're concerned about purchasing the old YMCA, 120-some-year-old building. It's got a former Victorian house that it's built around, okay? And you're going to sell a property that was built for our fire department to be north of the railroad tracks. You want to sell that, okay? Start looking at the fire department and seeing if we can't start saving some money. Okay, thank you.
Any other public participation for economic development? Seeing none, we move on to the approval of minutes from March 20th, 2025, regular Economic Development Committee meeting. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Shawn,
Second.
second by Mr. Moritz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Abstain.
Before you, we have the Bucyrus Tourism and Visitors Bureau first quarter report. As stated in the agreement that we have with the Tourism Bureau, I did not request them to come, but they did provide us with account balance summaries, market efforts. If the committee wishes to read over that, they can. I don't think we have to do anything with that.
So this is the quarterly report. Are we asked to, no legislation's coming out of it, so are we?
I believe
asked
it's
to-
just informational.
Just information.
Just information. I will reiterate what was stated previously. I did very much like the fact that it was factual and information based. I think that was very helpful for the citizens and also for us to kind of get a gauge and idea of where we are with the Crawford Partnership. I see that as a good step forward.
There's nothing else on that topic. We'll move on to the bed tax, Ms. Slater.
Yeah, so I brought this up back when I brought a bunch of stuff to the town hall when it was requested. I know there was no movement on it, even though I asked for it to be referred, so I went ahead and did so. Let me pull up my project list and I can go into that a little bit more detail. Looking at this and comparing, I have the exact figures if you give me just a moment. Okay, so I should have re-forwarded this to you all since it was provided to you when I was a citizen, but I'm not sure if you guys will have it. One of the revenue source ideas that I did have was to look at our bed tax. Currently, we're at a 3% for lodging. So that's under the 181.03 ordinance. Raising it to 5 or 6 could significantly boost revenue without unreasonably high charges to citizens. This would bring us in line with municipalities across the state. Half of the tax, as we're aware, goes to the Tourism Bureau. So last year, I received from the auditor that the 3%, I'm gonna guess this was 23. This might have been 23, because I think we had this conversation 24. So in 2023, I have that the total 3% that was brought in was $59,651. If we would use those figures and move forward, bring it up to 5%, that would be $99,418. 50% of ours is $49,709. I know this seems like small potatoes, but you know, at this point, every little bit helps. I would think everyone would agree with that. If we bring it up to 7, it would be $139,185. And the city's 60 or 50% would be $69,692. So I looked up some examples of this. The city of Columbus alone has a lodging tax of 5.1%, and I believe that Franklin County also has a percentage. Hocking County, for example, their total lodging tax rate is 6%. 3% of it is levied by the county, and 3% is levied by the township. So the total tax is at 6%. Hamilton is 7.5. So or Hamilton County. So there's definitely some revenue in that could be looked at. Like I said, I know it's small potatoes, but every little bit helps. And the other thought I had for that is most of the updated ordinances, such as Hocking County, City of Columbus, they do short-term rentals as well. So cabins, Airbnb, Vrbo. Obviously, we don't have a ton, but there's like 10 properties that could be at that 3% would be leveraged against, or well, it's 3% now, but if we raise it to 5 or 7, that we could leverage against. Like I said, I know it's small potatoes, but the one is rented out for all of the summer, and it's one of the new ones up above the Crawford County Arts Bureau. They have one there, so people are using it. Be forward-looking as well, hopefully we keep expanding. Pickwick brings in more people. We could hopefully see an increased revenue, and we'd have the structure set up for that moving forward. So those are my thoughts.
Do we need to do anything right now, or do we want to have a Miranda forward that information to the rest of the committee to look over before we make a decision?
I presented the information that I have, so it's really just deciding on a percentage and maybe consulting the auditor or other individuals that may be able to provide more information on what that would mean for Bucyrus.
Mr. Ingram.
Okay.
I also believe there's still a House bill right now that talks about going after the small bed and breakfasts and the small other ones that don't pay bed tax yet, and they're trying to litigate that through the state right now to have that, because I know we have some places that don't pay bed tax
That would be
yet.
short-term, like the short-term rentals. That
Right,
would
and
include that.
they are currently working through that in the state right now. I think it's Bill 196, not sure off the top of my head, but it's right around, the bill number's right around there somewhere, but it's House bill right now. they're also working on that to help us out.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
the people that are skating around paying bed tax.
Right.
Like I said, I'm not too sure if that number's right, but it's one that pops in my head right now as far as the number goes for the house bill. That's all I have.
So do we want to table that for further investigation?
We can table that for further information. I would like that.
Might be 1211. 1211, number is sticking in my head.
All right. Moving on to open projects. Do we have any open projects you wish to discuss?
Let me look at the list. Service, health and safety. I was wondering if are we wanting to purge some of these? I mean, we have some on here I saw from like 2012, 2015. I mean, for example, like, I don't think we're gonna get family farm and home annexed at this point because that was 2015, saying we're waiting on the law director for them to open.
What I was told with the annexations is we can't really remove those because they're always in progress, even though it hasn't been touched for 13 years. So we could take them off. I have no problem taking them off.
I guess that would be up to, is there a legality issue there, law director?
That was the previous law director that stated
I was
that,
gonna
just
say,
to clarify.
I can look into it.
And Jed and CETA, has there been any?
I believe we got the update for that on Tuesday.
Yeah, I know there was information, but I didn't know if there was anything that we needed to do regarding that. No?
Not yet.
Okay.
Until we have that meeting with the rest of the county representation, we don't have to make anything yet.
And since there was the change of the guard at the Crawford County,
Partnership.
thank you. The OAFF, which I referred to it wrong, it's Ohio All Future Fund. Has there been any further discussion on any site-ready projects that fit the bill?
When we talked with Sarah before she left, she said that she would talk to RGP. And as far as I'm aware, when I last talked to Greg, there wasn't any communication between them and RGP. So I have nothing on that yet.
Okay. I am meeting with Mr. Timberlake on the 28th. Just to kind of do like a meet and greet since I'm new to Economic Development Committee and just kind of, I can touch base with him if that's okay with you. I'm asking since you're the chair.
I don't care.
Okay. I know this has been a problem in the past with an audit issue with the CIC. I think that's resolved, but have we discussed like what we're doing with the CIC?
Not an extension, no.
Okay.
I believe that was something that Brian was working on also.
Who?
The previous law director was looking into that as well, I think.
Yeah, when was the audit issue? Do we remember?
Oh, no, that was you looking into that, wasn't
Yeah. That was,
it? Yeah, the audit
Yeah, we were
was-
getting audited, and I don't remember when the law director report was, but the audit has been completed.
So there
Pretty
isn't
sure we
anything-
appointed new members to the board, didn't we?
I think so.
Well,
Yeah.
there's no updates on that because the last thing we have is January 23rd, 25, where Deshaun stated that the further appointments would need to be done by the mayor.
That's right.
That's right.
Because it's administrative appointees, I forget.
Correct. That's how that happened.
well, it's appointed by state code. Our revised code, chapter 1724, which is in our ordinance number 46-2018, that establishes who's supposed to be on the board. It's the mayor, the president of council, the service safety director, the auditor, and the economic chair. which I reported out on January 23rd that Mr. Hickman was appointed to the CIC in January of 2024. Also, according to the Ohio Revised Code, there are to be no more than 9 members. The mayor has the option, let me get the right paperwork. The remaining directors, if appointed, shall be appointed from the membership, shall be appointed by the mayor with the consent of a majority vote of city council for a term of 4 years. I did talk with the mayor, and he indicated to me that he has approached Lynn McKeever and Melinda Tubbs to serve on the board. I asked him because if you're allowed to have, or if you're supposed to have no more than 9, and you already have 5 appointed by Ohio Revised Code, I questioned, are you then going to appoint 4 to go up to 9, or are you just saying that these 2 are all you're looking to appoint? He wanted to get back with me, and that has not happened as of yet. So I will touch base with him to find out if he's just looking at these 2, or if he's looking at, any more. And then, once he's made that decision, then he would just come to a council meeting, state their names, and then we just do a, vote at council, approving his appointments.
If I could just make a suggestion when you have that conversation, Vicki.
Sure.
I would say that right now it's supposed to be community, so I would say at 7 you only have 2 community members, so it might be beneficial to appoint more community members so they have more of a voice, and it's not just government, but that's my only suggestion. Obviously, it's his decision, but.
And I know according to our ordinance that the individuals that he would appoint need to be residents of or owners of businesses within the city with suitable backgrounds in business, industry, or the professions.
Okay.
You have any other open projects?
I do not.
We'll be moving on to public participation for the final time.
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. I'm sorry that Casey Crowell couldn't be here because I have a lot of questions, and since you're the representative for the city of Bucyrus, for the Visitors and Travel Bureau representation, I kind of found it interesting that they spent over $40,000 reviving the Visitors and Travel Bureau with a LLC that wasn't licensed in the state of Ohio. And what did we get for that? Was this contract with the chamber, or was it with the Visitors and Travel Bureau? I also am concerned about some of this miscellaneous income. It doesn't say where it comes from. It just says miscellaneous income. Was that from a fundraiser? Where did that come from?
What are we looking at, Mr. White?
We're looking at the...
I'm looking at the expenditure report by the Visitors and Travel Bureau. It's in the packet. So I'm looking at this, it says miscellaneous income, but it doesn't say why or where did it come from. Is it donations? Is it through fundraising? Where did that money come from? And what source did that money come from?
May I answer that question? Or would you like to finish your questions, Mr. White?
Yeah, I'd like to finish first, please, if you wouldn't mind. I also am concerned that we're seeing more, the staffing expenses. In March it was $924, then $880 in the same month. I mean, that's quite high when they said they weren't going to have that much expenses. Now we're paying 50% of the chamber's stuff along with Visitors and Travel Bureau for Mailing, copying, phone expenses, internet, mail chip, and copying administration costs. Well, we're paying administrative staffing cost up here, so what kind of administration cost are we paying out of the 50%? So my other question too is this, in the agreement, it still states in the agreement with the City of Bucyrus and the Visitors and Travel Bureau that public records under that agreement are still not available to the public, okay? And that most of the so-called videos out there are basically all chamber members. Isn't this the Visitors and Tourism Travel Bureau for Bucyrus, the City of Bucyrus, okay? But none of the so-called videos or whatever that we're spending money on are actually about businesses in the City of Bucyrus. Do you have to be a chamber member to get exposure with this money? You know? That's what my question is. There's a lot of businesses out here, and there's a lot of things that could be exposed, you know, with this bed tax money. But it's all being spent on only chamber members only, which I kind of find odd. So my last thing is the Chamber and Tourism Bureau and the Tourism Bureau interested in promoting Bucyrus, or are they more interested in becoming social media influencers?
I mean, that's how you get most of your promotion in the modern era.
Well, why aren't they not promoting the Tap House? Why aren't they not promoting Mark's Ice Cream? Why aren't they not promoting this and that?
That's been promoted very heavily.
The Tap House by the Visitors and Travel Bureau?
You go
Well, what
up
about
to-
all the other businesses here in town?
You go up to the Bureau and you can get the sponsored business of the week. It's in rotation.
But I mean, I'm talking about the videos that are online. That's what I'm talking about. The money we're spending for all this marketing, you know, for these videos and stuff, it's never been about businesses and tourism in this town. Nothing about the murals, nothing about this, nothing about that. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Kurt Fankhauser, 1415 Michigan Drive. I'm also going to touch on the Tourism and Visitors Bureau. So our contract with them specifically has a line at the end of it that says, the very end of it, it says, at all times, both parties agree to follow federal, state, and municipal laws and regulations, including but not limited to those dealing with equal employment opportunity, discrimination, public records, ethics, and record retention. So it's been brought to me, and I looked into it myself, is the records of the Tourism Bureau a public record? You know, are there minutes, public record, are there meetings, public meetings, things like that. And I started looking into this, you know, and it seeing that it's wrote in the contract, the word public records is in there, tells me that I'm going in the right direction with this thing. But there's an Ohio Attorney General's opinion 99-028. It's regarding a nonprofit corporation that is recognized by Board of County Commissioners as a Convention and Visitors Bureau receiving public funds from excise bed taxes. And if you read through the whole thing, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it basically lays out that because they receive public taxes primarily for their operations, that the things they do are public records, okay? Several months ago, I went to the Tourism Bureau and I talked to Mrs. Grau, and I asked her about this, and I said, do you guys consider your meetings and your minutes from those meetings public records? She didn't know. And I pointed out this Attorney General's opinion, and she seemed very shocked about this Attorney General's opinion, and I said, well, I'd like you to get back with me, because if it is public records, I'd like to see some of the minutes and stuff. And I have been going back and forth for months on this with them, their attorneys, and the Bucyrus Law Director, and I'm starting to get fed up because it seems like I'm getting strung along, and I'm about ready to take it to the next step, which is going to involve legal processes. So I'm just making the committee aware of what's going on with that, with the Tourism Bureau, because they are receiving public tax money from the city of Bucyrus, and that's all I got to say about that.
I have a question to whomever wants to answer it, but is this separate from us? I mean, is this, first of all, is it legislative? Is this something the legislative authority has authority over? Is this administrative? And if, to that point, wouldn't this be a complaint against the Tourism Bureau more than it is the city? That's not rhetorical. Anyone's welcome to answer that. Law Director?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. It would be a suit against the Visitors Bureau. I can't really say much more than that because attorney-client privilege still applies, and Mr. Fankhauser can't waive that in his private capacity.
Adam Frizzell Passage. Just to chime in, I think that whole argument was just utterly stupid. I myself am a public servant. I'm a high school teacher, so I'm also bound by public records laws, and I would just to kind of skip right to the end, an elected body, a legislative body, keeps minutes for their meetings, but just because you're bound by laws of public record doesn't mean you have to keep minutes for every meeting that you have. I don't personally keep minutes of every conversation I've had with every student or parent that I've ever had. So I just thought that was stupid. I came up here to talk about the bed tax idea that was floated earlier. That touches on two of my personal passions. And I'll explain why. I think, one, I would like to remind you guys, to remind the committee that the idea about the Airbnb above the Crawford County Art Center, I think I've stated to you before, Ms. Slater, but just because an Airbnb is listed as unavailable does not mean it's booked. So I think that might be an overinflated estimate as to the income.
That conversation, I apologize.
Yeah, but also to pair with that, mentioning specifically that the Airbnb is above the Art Center, I think is a good reminder that the Art Center uses that property based on a very generous agreement with the owner of the building. So if we were to put an undue tax on the income that supports that facility, I just think that may have some direct relationship to the Crawford County Art Center, which I think we would all agree does great things in our community.
Yeah, just to your point, I looked into this. It's actually levied to the person who's renting it. So if he charges $150, the percentage is on top as in taxes, same as a sales tax. So it's not being levied against him or his income. It's going on top of, in addition to, similar to like a sales tax.
So the tax then you would be collecting from Airbnb, the corporation?
Correct.
Okay. That I was unfamiliar with that. The second point that I wanted to make about the same Airbnb and consideration for bed taxes is that I myself, I believe, was the first Airbnb in town. So I've been doing it for several years. Airbnb does provide anyone who hosts a 1099. So I've been paying income tax, in-city income tax on any Airbnb income, which is at, what is our current income tax rate? We know the answer to it, but I've been paying the income tax rate on any Airbnb income since the company was started. So I would argue that the 3% bed tax is already less than any Airbnb has been paying on that income. So I would just add that to that. What is already very small potatoes, if you increase the tax that would lower the income, would probably result in no potatoes. And
Yeah,
I prefer small potatoes.
It would not take the money out of your pocket. If you charge $150, when they go for checkout, it would be listed as like like similar to a sales tax.
I'm aware, but as an economic ideation,
Right.
When the cost increases, the demand, the supply, if we increase the cost, I think the Airbnbs particularly are something that brings outside members into the community. Not only do we pay the Airbnb 1099 tax as employment tax, or income tax in that way, it also brings outside income for the visitors that do come and travel here. So I think if we were to start, I guess, putting the hammer down to entities that bring outside income to the city, I think that's what we talk about with our out-of-town work tax credit. We're looking at ways that people don't leave the town to spend their money, that we want to bring people in town. So I think that's one of the great ways that we do have to bring people in, particularly for our travel and tourism and things. So I just want to remind you that, you know, the more pressure that you put on situations that bring people and bring finance and income into the city, it's very worrisome that we could kind of, you know, dry up one of the few taps that we do have there. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I have to address something. The gentleman that spoke before presented false information to this committee. I've heard it multiple times. I have looked up with the Ohio Secretary of State the business name Frizzell Passage. It does not exist. It is not a registered business in the state of Ohio. I don't know why he keeps coming up here and saying it.
Does this have anything to do with
I think the man was under the influence of illicit substances when he was
Point of
speaking.
order.
Hold on.
This is a
We're
person.
not
He was
doing-
talking
we're not
about
doing this.
smoking marijuana at the last
Point of order.
meeting.
That's the
Yes,
second
it
point of
was.
order.
Rule of point of order. We're not doing this. I'm not doing this. Any other public participation? Please. None? All right. What time is it? 6:37.
Thank
We're
you.
adjourned.
Public Lands and Buildings Committee, April 24th, 2025. Due to a lack of quorum, Public Lands and Buildings Committee will not meet this evening. Service Committee, April 24th, 2025. Due to a lack of quorum, Service Committee will not meet this evening. Health and Safety Committee, April 24th, 2025.
I call the Health and Safety Committee meeting to order at 6:41 PM. Members present are Kevin Myers, James Me, and myself, Vicki DeShawn, Chair. C. Aaron Sherrick is absent. First on the agenda is public participation. Anyone wishing to speak to the public, or speak to the public, yeah. That wishes to speak to the committee, please come to the podium.
Frazier, 720 Dudley Street. What's that?
You got ahead of me.
I have a question. Is there still a health and safety subcommittee? Okay? Check your union contract, AFSCME union contract. Used to be one of the clauses in the AFSCME contract that a safety committee should exist between administration.
It does.
Council. Okay, there is.
It does exist.
When's it last met?
Probably long before I ever got on council.
I believe that should start reform and start meeting, because I worked for the city for many years, and you can drive around town nowadays, and I know, I'm not trying to be negative about our current service director because he just started. But I can tell you honestly, very little safety concerns goes into any of our city employees. Very little. You drive around town, you see them, they might have a cone or two out around the big machine, no safety equipment on, none. So I think that committee should be started back up, should be taking a good look at our safety procedures in the city of Bucyrus. Was there not an employee that got hurt bad last year? Okay, everybody felt bad about it, didn't they? Everybody felt real bad. What was done about it? You have to lead those men.
I have a question. Did you serve on that committee ever?
No.
Because I was going to ask if you knew, is it required to meet or only do they meet when?
It's in the union contract that a committee shall exist, I believe. Now, that
That's my
clause
point.
may have been
They
taken out.
exist, but
I
are they
don't know.
required to meet?
It was required by union contract that a subcommittee of safety and health to discuss safety issues. It was always in the contract. I do know that.
Did they meet when you were an employee?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, met when I was an employee.
that's my point for health and safety.
Thank you. Any other,
To that point.
Excuse me.
I know that we've got record of who's on the committee. Who is in charge of that committee? Would that fall to the mayor's office?
Yeah, it would be the mayor/service safety director. Either of them could.
Would you be willing to look into that and just get us an answer of kind of to Mr. Frazier's questions, I guess? Why are they not meeting, and do we have plans to have them meet, those kind of things? Thank you.
next on the agenda is the repealing and not replacing of ordinance number 46-96. Everyone has a copy of that in front of them. Does anybody have any comments about the draft legislation that's been prepared? Jim?
No comment.
Kevin?
Other than your highlighter notes, no.
Okay, observations on my part. Let's start with, and it doesn't change the effect of the legislation, it cleans it up. Under repealing, on the first line in the caption, repealing and not replacing ordinance, I think it would be well if we included number, N-O period, because that's what it's titled, you know, ordinance number 46-96. Go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the sixth line, the word which is misspelled. Then we go on and it says, which streets are affected. I think we might want to consider removing that streets are that's been repeated twice. Then it talks about length of, and there's this little, I don't even know what that sign is. I think it's maybe just a finger, you know, I don't know what that's called.
Apostrophe.
Apostrophe.
It's so small, I couldn't see it.
Yeah, suggest that, you know, that be removed. Then it calls for 3/4 of all members elected thereto concurring. I think we want that to say a majority. Other than, you know, those observations, everything else looks fine.
I agree with everything you said, other than the number at the top. I don't know that that's
Okay.
a big deal, but everything else is just grammar type stuff.
My
So-
only thought is if we're going to change all this, you
Yeah.
know, just be consistent. But again, it's whatever the
It's
committee
inconsequential to
decides.
me, that part is, but
Who's on our committee that's not here? Oh,
Aaron.
Aaron, okay. Yeah. So I guess the question is, do the law directors heard these observations? Are we just asking then him to amend this draft, and does that need to be done by motion and second and vote?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I'm just asking because I know sometimes we've done motion and second, and then other times we haven't, and I'm just not, that's why I'm
with
asking.
it, if I may.
Sure.
With it all being basically grammatical stuff, Mr. Goldberg, because that's something that Miranda could effectively change and just send it to you for your approval the last
Absolutely.
time. I don't know which one of you has a better schedule to allow that happening before our next meeting, but.
I had already done.
Okay, next, open projects. Do you have any open projects that you want to talk about? Request removed, Kevin,
Not tonight.
other than my yellow highlights? First off, I would like to address the 450 Dudley Street. I was just wondering, Mr. Goldberg, if you've heard back from the individuals that you hand-delivered letters to about having a meeting?
Yes, I'm working on the title search right now,
Okay.
and it's being transferred to somebody who plans to rehabilitate it.
So we're out of that essentially?
Yep.
Perfect. Where is that in process? Like, hasn't transferred yet though?
Nope, still working on the title search.
I would recommend we just leave it on the list until,
Sure.
in case that falls
Oh,
through.
yes.
Once, and
Yes.
if you find out that that's transfers happened and all that, let us know when we should remove it.
Cool.
Next, we have our food trucks. That is just for information for the public. We're still awaiting on draft legislation for that. Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, Section 505, Animals and Fowl. Again, we're waiting on draft legislation for that. Taxi cab licensing, Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, Chapter 381. And that's what it's titled, but it's dealing more with the insurance requirements. We're still waiting on draft legislation. Peddler and solicitor law, Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, Chapter 711, waiting on legislation draft. The criminal ordinance package, same thing, waiting on draft legislation. And the cruising with the cops street closure, that was,
It's had 2 readings, I believe.
no,
It
it
was
was
Oh, we
yeah, it
did
was
pass,
passed,
okay.
yeah, on Tuesday, so
it
that
should
could be
automatically
removed.
be removed,
Yeah. That's the only thing that I wanted to discuss on our open projects list. Any other public participation?
This is health and safety, right? Okay, Kurt Fankhauser, 1415 Michigan Drive. And I talked to Brandon about this. So there's nothing in the Ohio Revised Code that says that the law director has to write all of the legislation. The legislation could be written by somebody else. And I'm wondering, Kevin, when the minimum staffing for the fire, the 6 in 2023, did you write that, or who wrote that?
Whomever our law director was at the time.
Okay, so you were working with him outside of the committee meeting. But in regards to, I think the city, or I think the council is overly pushing a lot of legislation writing to the law director. It's nothing against Brandon saying that he can't write it, but I think the committee chair should, especially some of the simple stuff. And Vicki, you have experience writing legislation. So you, of all people, could be doing more with the writing of the legislation. It wouldn't be out of line at all if you wrote all your legislation and then let Brandon have a final review of it before it's then advanced on or whatever. I feel like you keep saying we're waiting on Brandon, we're waiting on Brandon, You have all rights to write it, Vicki. You have all rights to write it. You're the committee chair. So I'm just giving you a suggestion if you want to help, and I'm not saying you don't do a lot already, Vicki, because you do a lot of research and stuff. But if we're waiting on things with the law director a lot, I think the committee chairs could be, and that's kind of what they're doing with Title IX with Chris. They're meeting with the service director and McKeever Engineering, Dylan Wyatt, Landon. They're writing that thing themselves, basically. Yeah, the law director's there too a little bit, but I feel like past practice of utilizing the law director for exclusively writing all the legislation it's been overused. It's been overused. Technically, the law director could be against a piece of legislation that's introduced by this council. Council could still pass it against his recommendations. That would still be legal. Is that correct?
That is correct, but I would also like to say, I don't think it's really a good idea for the chairs to write the legislation.
But in Vicky's
I don't-
circumstance, Vicky has a lot of experience writing legislation.
Correct. I don't think that's a good idea,
No,
and
I
I'm
agree.
open to comments and suggestions. And as for the whole waiting on me thing, since the cruising with the cops things has passed, we've passed 43 different things since January 1st. That's a really good pace, and it's something we haven't seen in years. So I don't want to hear people saying, I'm not doing anything, or you're waiting on
I'm not saying
everything.
you're not, I'm saying you're doing a lot. I mean, you're working up 3 a.m. sometimes, there's that much stuff to do. You know,
This is
and
true.
part of being on council is, and especially committee chairs, is you gotta put in the work. And if, the committee chair could draft some of their legislation and what they want to see it as, or what their committee wants to see it as, and then hand it to the law director and have him do final review, that wouldn't be out of line at all. It wouldn't be out of line at all.
What Chris and I have going on with the 900s is great. I mean, we've made a lot of progress on it. We email it back and forth. We're in constant communication about it. What we're doing there is great. What I do with Jim, same thing. I mean, that situation works out great.
And is that situation happening with the chair of the Health and Safety with Vicky?
No,
It's not.
no,
Now, is that because you're not willing to do it, or is
no,
she
I'm
not?
100% willing to do it.
Okay, so now we know where the problem is.
Now,
Just saying, I'm just saying. Some of the earlier stuff tonight that didn't get passed was because things weren't getting wrote right and things, or a word here and a word there, and it's your committee, Vicki. You could have helped this situation.
And I did. I always would send emails and say, here.
now, wait a minute. You would send emails, and I loved it. I wouldn't make all of the suggestions, because some of them I didn't like. I didn't think they were right. But then you stopped, if I'm remembering correctly, you stopped sending emails about the same time you said that you weren't writing any more emails when you read that in an email exchange when you and Kurt had a kerfuffle. And then that's when you stopped writing any kind of emails and started having it all out in council floor, despite the fact that all the other chairs and I have that dialogue.
This is public participation.
Did my email offend you? Is that why you stopped with that email that you read the one time? Is that why this stopped?
I just sent the email April 1st that said I would no longer be giving my suggested revisions both to draft legislation and both to the committee minutes. And I will repeat what I have stated before. I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if I don't.
We have that in common. We should be like best friends, because I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't as well.
Okay.
I think this is a conversation that needs to be taken outside of this meeting.
You mean like over
Not
email?
No, I don't like writing emails, because then Vicki will
Face-to-face.
read them in front of the whole city.
That was my fault. I shouldn't have said that. Let's not get down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a disconnect right now, Vicki, that's causing us to not get legislation to full council that's proper. And then it gets stalled out, and then it gets held up, and then we have to have a special meeting because some people walked out, and, let's help.
So it's
Get
my
things-
fault because legislation,
Okay, we're done. We're done.
Clarissa Slater, 364504. Real quick, I don't know if you saw the Freewire article, But to mirror that, you guys are like yin and yang. He
May I
works in.
respond just before you finish, when you ask if the Free Wire article?
Yeah, go
Because
ahead.
I said something to Logan. No, I haven't totally read it. Because I didn't go to bed last night until 3 in the morning because I was working on all of this, reading the minutes, listening to audio recordings of 3.5 minutes to make sure, well, and that really wouldn't have been last night. That's working on, our stuff for tonight. I was up at 7 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock, I'm back upstairs. I did not leave the upstairs computer room until 4:45 or 5 when I knew I had to get ready and come here. Again, I don't know what more I can do. I just...
I don't think it's an effort issue, Vicki, and that's what I'm trying to say is that April of last year when I came up and talked to you and you said, I want feedback from the citizens, like let me know what I'm doing. And the only criticism I've ever had of you is that sometimes you're too busy looking at the trees, you can't see the forest, and I'm the exact same way. And Brandon's the exact opposite. He's so worried about the big picture that sometimes he misses the details. You two could be the biggest asset that Bucyrus has. And I think instead of focusing on the negative, I think there's a way forward that we can utilize both of your guys' strengths. And I commend for how much work you do because I don't think people realize how much you do behind the scenes. A crazy amount of work. And I wish I had more time, but this is supposed to be a part-time job and you're putting in more than 40 hours a week, I'm sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, if it makes it any easier for you, just keep thinking. You only have me for 8 more months, and then you never have to see my face again.
I tried
and
to get you to run again, Vicki.
I think
And
we've
everybody
really gone off the
Yeah.
side of this.
The only thing that I was gonna say is that-
I'm gonna go ahead and say this. Multiple people on this council have commended you for your work. I have commended you for your work. It's not an effort issue. Nobody says you're not doing a good job.
Then what's the issue?
Nobody. I would like to work with you throughout the week, just like I work with everybody else. I don't want to have this conversation in front of 12,000 people every single time. You're making me hate this job.
And the only thing that I will say is from my perspective is that when this happens, I'm not putting a fault on it. But when we sit here and we dive into it during a council meeting or during a committee meeting, my parents watch my kids until 11:30 at night because we have to be here this long. Because these are things that I would hope to see that can be conversational throughout the week. So we're not broadcasting the arguments on live feed.
So then maybe just to make it easy, I ought to just hand in my resignation.
Vicki,
And
I'm
we'll
not
let the
saying that at
Republican
all.
Central Committee then appoint someone to take my position. Because I'm still of the opinion, I'm damned if I do, or I'm damned if I don't. And
So am I.
if you are upset because the public is maybe hearing that things aren't being done correct, I mean, why am I being blamed for that? Because I'm talking about it. Transparency.
Because this is a team sport, Vicki. We all are supposed to work together.
You want to talk about team sport, the proposition that you made to me and wanted me to do
I
so a
definitely think that's-
certain person wouldn't be on council?
That's politics and has nothing to do with the
No,
city.
yes, that's what you said, that's politics. I don't operate that way. I will not. And as I told you, I will not participate in that type of work.
And
I
that's
can't-
fine.
Can I make my third request if this is not related to health and safety at this moment?
Yeah, I'd also like to say though, like, you guys took the bait from Kurt. Remember what I said to you? I said all of this is gonna fester, and Kurt's gonna come up here, and he's gonna drive a wedge. It's happening. Remember when I said, let's have a conversation? Well, it's happening. It's just what happened. He's driving a wedge. So it doesn't benefit anyone other than the people who want to try to cause chaos. So.
We're in a room, there's just other people in it. You got what you wanted.
Well, my proposition was that I should lock both, I'm not taking anyone hostage, it's just a turn of phrase, so don't arrest me. But I should lock you both in a room and play mediator, but both parties have to be amicable to that. It's not serving anyone doing this.
I
I
make
said
my
both
fourth
parties. So,
request,
all right.
this is not health and safety related.
Is there any more public participation? What was that about? Seeing none, I'll adjourn the Health and Safety Committee at 7:04 PM.
Platting Committee, April 24th, 2025.
Platting will come to order at 7:06. Public participation for platting. Seeing no one. We had tiny homes put on, so we want to look at that and find some legislation from other cities and put it together to maybe make our own legislation and present it back to each other. And when we get everything together, we're going to present it to our law director, see what he makes of it, if that's okay. Anybody else got any comments on tiny homes?
I think it's great.
Sweet. Open projects.
Jimmy, might as well do it, because I don't think we're ever gonna have a meeting that's not this contentious. You wanted to go through the list last time.
Let's just wait. Let's just wait.
Is it ever gonna change, though?
Is there any public participation? Seeing none, we're going to adjourn at 7:08.
Finance Committee, April 24th, 2025.
Call Finance Committee to order at 7:11 PM. Members present are James Meek, Christopher Moritz, Vicky DeShawn, and myself, chairs. Is there any public participation for finance? Hearing none. Oh, sorry.
I'm not sure if this is the right committee. I have another suggestion for income, possible.
Real quick name and address for her record.
Al Frazier, 720 Dudley, start. Okay, and the gist of this is going to be about access television, okay? We finally did away with Spectrum. It was our highest bill for television and cable, ran over $250 a month. So we'd had enough. Every 6 months it was going up by $8 or $10. We went to a different carrier. As soon as we switched to carriers, you got access television. Okay? I miss access television. And I think that some of you should get the legislation out and read what is actually written in legislation pertaining to access television. Okay? And here's another question. Where was the money and how was the money spent when we didn't have access television? By contract, money was paid to the city of Bucyrus to provide access television. And the legislation, I believe, I've read it, been years, but I've read it, was to go directly through the school system. That's part of what I miss about access. In fact, I helped start access television. I helped broadcast football games, basketball games, girls and boys, the prom, the senior prom, graduation. Access television is supposed to be through the school system and to provide coverage of council meetings. Read the legislation. Where and how was that money spent over the last 6 or 8 years that we haven't had access television? I was told every time I questioned about it, that was equipment problems. They couldn't get the right equipment, and Spectrum wouldn't come and hook it up for them and so forth. Okay? Where and how is that money spent? Okay? And here's a quick point. Last night at Tuesday night's council meeting, not one committee report. Not one. No report. No report. Okay? I was always told, and I worked up here for a lot of years, I set council chambers up every other week for council meetings. The committees is where the nuts and bolts is done. The committees are where the work is done. A council meeting, no committee reports, nothing. We're getting the bare minimum, folks. Okay? Now, Spectrum, look it up. You know what, I want to make no reports? I'll give you all something to do. I'm making a public records request. I want to see the last contract that was signed by the administration for Access Television. I want it mailed to my house. I don't want it emailed. 720 Dudley Street. I want to see the contract, the last contract that was signed, okay? Last time I talked to a city clerk about it, they didn't even know it existed. I asked her to see the legislation. She didn't know it existed. It exists, okay? I want to know when the next negotiation for that contract is up and when the negotiation starts, okay? Every 6 months, our cable bill went up. If we negotiate the next contract and we don't request more money, we're missing the boat. Spectrum is an evil empire. Okay? They keep raising everybody's rates. So I want to know if we can't get more money out of it. I want to know when that negotiation is. I want to know how it turns out. Most of that, nobody knows about it. Like I said, the clerk, council clerk in past years didn't know there was legislation. Okay? So there's a revenue source. Okay? So we got access back. But you have to have Spectrum. Okay? And all the council meetings, everything, these meetings are done by how? Streaming. If we're charging Spectrum in our city to franchise, why aren't we charging Verizon, T-Mobile, and all the others? Okay? Money, revenue. Let them know we're not letting you in our city unless you give us a franchise fee. And if you don't ask, you won't get it. You've got to ask. You've got to tell them. T-Mobile, pay us. Verizon, pay us. Okay? And I want to know how long it's going to take before I can watch our access channel on Brightspeed. When's that technology going to come along? We're supposed to be taxpayers. I'm paying for access television, but I don't have Spectrum, so I can't get it.
Can I answer your question? The other two ways that you can is on the city's YouTube channel, and then starting May 1st, is it, that we're going back to the Facebook Live again?
Streaming. Got to pay for it.
Isn't that what Brightspeed is? Is it just internet access?
Okay, along those lines. The service director's been to my house. Brightspeed, we chose to go to Brightspeed. Okay? So about November, I look out in the yard, snow on the ground, there's a cable running all the way down the front of our yard. Okay? So I called. You can't get nobody on the phone from Brightspeed. Forget it. Okay? So service director came out to our house one day to look at our situation with the road. And he says, what's that cable laying there? I said, it's Brightspeed, I guess. He said, I'll call him. I'll give Tom credit. He tried to get a hold of him. Okay? Weeks go by, and I told Tommy at the time, I said, I'm not mowing around that thing. Across the whole front of our yard. So I've mowed twice, and I've moved it both times. So we called and called and called, and finally got a representative on the phone. About a week later, they send a guy out in a big bucket truck. He pulls in the driveway, gets out, stands there and looks at it for a minute, and then he says, is that what you've been complaining about? I said, yes. He goes, well, it'll be 3 or 4 weeks and we'll come out and we'll bury that. 3 or 4 weeks. I said, I'm going to cut it. See how you like me then. I'm not mowing around it every week. Oh, well, don't do that. Don't do that. That's the customers down through there. I said, well, sir, do something about it. So that's Brightspeed, their service that you get. Okay? We need to drag more money out of the streaming services. Okay? And if we don't ask, we won't get anything. So that's my suggestion for the finance.
Can you get with Mr. Frazier and facilitate his records request, Tommy?
Is your one the service?
For access?
The service was canceled, but that other thing is...
Whatever, yeah, he had asked to have something mailed to his house. Could you just get with him and...
Hey, I've been told that there's no service committee?
Yeah, there wasn't a quorum, so they weren't able to
I'll go
meet.
ahead and
Technically,
talk about the
no.
service stuff?
Technically, no. However, if you wait until we adjourn this, I think all of us would listen to you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other public participation? You have on the agenda.
Mr. Myers, hey, do you have anything to say with that, about public access or anything? Is it on a book still? Do we pay them still or anything? Or?
So what happens with that is they provide us with a charter franchise fee. So quarterly, they send us a check. A portion of that goes to fund access, and part of it goes to the parks. I'm not 100% sure, Al, but I'm pretty certain that we only get funding from that currently through video and not internet. And there's been talk, because of so many people cutting the cord, that maybe they're going to readjust that at some level. I don't think that's at a city level. I would have to look into it more passively. All I know about it is we get the check, I revenue it in, but I'd be more than happy to look into that more for you.
Appreciate it.
Somebody, and I can't remember who it was, somebody in the room may remember, somebody called and checked, and there was, in the city limits of Bucyrus, there was only just a few hundred customers for Spectrum currently. I don't know if you know that, or... So it's gone way down.
Fankhauser, 1415 Michigan Drive. The video franchising, how that works, it used to be each municipality could have a separate franchise agreement with the cable providers, and it could be whatever the municipality wanted. That was changed in the early 2000s. It's now regulated by the state. And basically, every one of them cable companies falls under a state franchise now. They allow each municipality to pass an ordinance saying they're going to collect up to, the state caps it, I believe, at 5% of what the video services related to that customer's subscription. So if somebody only subscribes to video, you're going to get 5% of whatever that is, but if they're subscribing to internet, the city gets nothing. And I believe we're already at the maximum 5%, so we couldn't legally get any more out of Spectrum, is the way I understand
And
it.
being an owner of an internet company, I'm going to ask you the question I thought I might know the answer to, but I know you will. Is there any law that allows us to put any type of franchise type fee on an
Now,
internet
so
provider?
the franchise, before the early 2000s, when the state changed it, they allowed any continuing franchise agreement to continue throughout its whatever term length that it had, and then once it expired up, it was done and everything fell back over to what the state says it was going to be.
So essentially, to Mr. Frazier's questions, we are already getting the maximum amount that we're going to be able to get through access?
For Spectrum. Now, I'm unsure with the Omni Fiber, if they started providing service in town. Now, the more I think about this now, I'm wondering if
Aren't they just an
we have
ISP?
to pass a separate ordinance to collect from them.
Are they an ISP,
Well, their
or do they have video?
website says TV and internet.
My grandpa accidentally signed up when he shouldn't have. It was a whole thing.
Okay.
They do channels, streaming channels and
Okay.
stuff.
I'll get with Brandon and I'll show him the ORC that stipulates, because there's a bunch of things that when they start providing service within an area, they're supposed to mail a notice to that municipality, and then that gives the municipality, the notice that a provider is now in the area, and then it's up to the municipality. Are they going to pass legislation requiring the franchise fee?
Okay.
I don't know if that happened when the Omni thing happened, so I don't know. I'll get with Brandon.
Hold on, I got a question, you might be able to answer. They're in the right of way, I mean, can't we just lease that out to them? Isn't there some kind of?
Well, but they're on.
Well, the franchise fee with the state, or the franchise, or the ORC thing with the state, it gives them permission to use the right of way. And then we can charge them up to 5% of their video services if we choose to. That's our only thing we can get from them using the right-of-way.
Okay. And we do get something from them, we're not sure yet.
From Spectrum, we do.
I thought it was like $75,000 a year in the Spectrum thing.
I can tell you for access really quickly, I'm not exactly sure where it's located.
But we do get something.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's my thing.
But it gets split between the access fund and the parks.
Brightspeed is technically not a video service provider, they're a phone company.
An ISP
And that's,
with
the phone
streaming.
companies fall under a whole separate set of ORC statutes than the cable companies.
I'd say okay.
And I'm not so sure, so that the original franchise agreements, the pre-early 2000 ones, I think that's where okay, you can use our right-of-way, we'll charge you a franchise fee, and plus you gotta give us a channel on the TV for the local access. I'm not 100% sure if that is even required anymore, that they give us that. I think we're paying for it now. I think Tommy, the administration, had to sign, there was another $300 a month fee, and they hooked it up through the switch over there in the auditor's office and ran a wire over here one day. But I think we're paying for that one slot on the channel now. I don't think it's provided to us for free by anymore.
And just to say how much comes in just to the access fund, we have about 58,000 is what we budgeted for this year. But there is still some that go into parks as well. Probably about that same amount.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, now you have in front of you the appropriations for the State Fire Marshal's Equipment Grant. Auditor Lewis?
So this is an appropriation for the fire equipment grant. This is under the general fund program Program 1, Security of Persons and Property. Under Program 7115, Fire Department, and item line 25, capital outlay, in the amount of $14,529.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion requesting emergency legislation for this appropriation.
So,
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Me and a second by Mr. Moritz. Is there any discussion? All right, if not, Mr. Me,
yes.
Mr. Moritz,
Yes.
Mrs. DeShawn,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes, that motion carries. Mr. Me, any open projects you wish to discuss this evening?
I'm good today, sir.
Mr. Moritz?
I was hoping that the levy would get brung up more tonight, but
Bring it up.
in my opinion, I would hope that the citizens of Bucyrus would really think about passing that.
You're talking about the street levy?
Street levy renewal. In my opinion, I think it's needed. There is more funds out there the city does have, but if you travel anywhere to any other cities close to us that are the same size as us, our streets are more taken care of than the streets I travel in. I travel all over the place for work. And if we miss out on that, the funds to take care of our streets will come out of somewhere else, taking money from other projects, other things that we have to do in Bucyrus. I just don't think it's a good idea to not keep that on the books.
I agree with you. Anything else from you this evening on open projects?
No, not right now.
Mrs. DeShawn?
No.
All right, public participation.
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. So what are we going to do about the budget? Are we going to have any hard discussions, what we can do about this budget and get it back into balance? Are we going to do cuts? I mean, we haven't heard nothing.
Cuts would be the administration, as we
Well,
previously discussed.
So, according to the state auditor's office, so the finance committee can bring the budget back to the floor and cut line item budgets. Okay? So, yes, this committee can bring the budget back to the committee, sit down and start cutting line item budgets, money from every line, and start cutting that. So, administration can do whatever they want with the budget. I agree with you on that. Okay? They can open the pool, not open the pool, whatever they want to do. However, it's this committee, according to state law, says that you have to balance this budget and that you can make cuts at any time you deem necessary to cut money from line items. That way the administration knows what they can and cannot do. But it's back on this committee and then to council that you can cut line item budgets. You can cut 1,000 here, 20,000 here, whatever it takes to put the budget back in balance. Okay? Now, since Mr. Moritz brought up the street levy, okay, let's start talking about the out-of-town tax credit then. Okay? Let's bring it to the floor. Let's have a good discussion about this. What we want to do, what you don't want to do, what the citizens would like to done about this. Let's bring the discussion to the floor. That's what this is for. So people can come up and say, okay, put on the out-of-town tax credit. What do you want to do? Okay? Instead of just keep it going like it's a waiting game.
Rhetorical question though, Mr. White. Who's keeping it going? Who's keeping that conversation going? Because it's not this committee.
Well, it's this committee and this council that has to decide whether they want to reduce the out-of-town tax credit, increase the out-of-town tax credit. As some people on this council have said that they want to increase the out-of-town tax credit and the income tax in this town.
But thus far, this committee has taken no action on that, and I will stand by my point. I want to try to find every other available option.
Well, then why aren't we making cuts in the line items then? No.
Can I speak now?
No.
I've been meeting with the administration. We've been talking about ways. There are things that they're doing. It just doesn't all happen right here in this room.
Well,
So we are having conversations. They are looking at it.
then why isn't these conversations available to the public, what you're doing?
Because I
That's
wasn't
fine.
meeting with a quorum. Myself and the service director don't constitute a quorum.
Well, I understand that, but as the chairman, you should bring this information to this committee and telling the people, the taxpayers, what you guys are doing.
And we will when that time's ready.
Oh, so we're back to the waiting game again. Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other public participation?
You're speaking about the levy, correct? Okay.
We're doing, yes.
I'm going to show you some pictures. We had our street done last year. This is the front of our house. Shoot, yeah. For about 2 weeks. Okay. A little wet there.
This is ungodly, right?
They had the catch basins closed. Okay? That's front of our house. When they were starting. Okay. A little wet there.
And you got a nice house too.
About 2 weeks. Okay. Then,
I hit his mailbox once while I was delivering pizza.
I'll show you after they finished. They just put dirt there and seeded it with straw over it. Okay, that was it. They're finished. That's what happened.
Guys, can you take your conversation out in the hall, please? Thank you.
But anyway, you can see that's the way they finished it. Okay, so everybody can see that. That's the way they finished our road right in front of our house. There's just some dirt, some seed, some straw over it. Okay, this is what it looks like now. Sorry, taking me a moment here.
Take all the time you need.
Okay. There's a city fire hydrant. Here's another point. And I know we got new employees. They flush those hydrants out occasionally, right? In the past, our serviceman would always open this hole up out here and it blew out into the street. Last time they did it, they opened up this one, and you can barely, but it's a big rut in our yard now, where they cleaned the fire hydrant out. There, that's what the front of our yard currently looks like. Brand new street, front of our yard, okay? And like I said, I'm not hauling on Tommy at all, because he's been out there twice. And he told me when it dried up, they were going to do something, okay? Which is great. I'm waiting. I'm anxiously waiting for that to happen, okay? You want people to pass the levy, and here's the thing. I was told when they started, I asked at the meeting, original meeting, are we going to have curbs and gutters down through there? Oh no, too expensive, can't afford it. And I thought, we got tax levy, we got street levy money. Okay, why can't we afford it? We should never put a new street in without a curb. We pave the alleys, we don't put curbs in. We pave the streets, there should be a curb. But we didn't get a curb. Okay?
Jeff Dunn explained to me at one point that if we did do that, it would decreases the number of miles of street, or feet, even probably a street that we can afford to do each year. That's the answer.
I'd rather see more done right than less miles. Okay?
I was just telling you what the reasoning they told us.
You can say, oh, we can't afford that, we're saving money. Okay, that's your opinion.
No, it's not my opinion.
Here's the deal, with nothing there, I don't know if you can see it plainly, the road is already starting to erode. See that line right there? The side of the road is starting to erode already. It should be at least burned. Okay? The road is starting to erode already. Brand new, taxpayers' money. If we're going to do the streets, let's do them right. Okay? That's all I'm saying. You want taxpayers to pass this levy. I'll vote for it because it's a good thing. You go to any other community around our county here, our streets are as good as any of them. And there's a reason for that. The tax levy. Got to get it passed again, don't we? That's been our experience on a new street. And here's another point. A week after it was done, I don't know why or who decided that it wasn't good enough. So a week later, here come road materials, milled it all off, and repaved it. Who paid for that?
When that happens,
Insurance company?
we do not pay for it.
Right, that is true.
Yeah, so when that happens,
It happened.
it didn't live up to our expectations, and so they come out and on their own dime, that doesn't cost us any money.
So,
Let's do them right.
so is that another issue if it's eroding already, that they might have to revisit that issue and have them come out and do it again?
That I don't know, I think there's a certain time parameter
You know,
that it has to be
just-
done in within.
We've got tax money, taxpayers' money, okay? And you want to sit there and tell me that it's not cost-effective to do it right?
You're misunderstanding what I said.
Oh, no,
All
I didn't
said-
misunderstand.
You did.
I
I would like to
understood completely
clarify.
what you said.
I'm going to clarify that Jeff Dunn, I'm telling you that we were told by Jeff Dunn the reason they choose not to do it. That's not my opinion, that's Jeff Dunn's
You
opinion.
mentioned the wrong fellow to me, sir. What is Jeff Dunn's title?
Service garage foreman.
What is it?
Service garage foreman.
Service Department Foreman. Is he a member of the bargaining unit?
He is.
Yes. That should never be. We know that. And it's allowed here in Bucyrus. And it should have never been allowed. Okay? You know it. Anybody that knows anything about labor law knows it. But that goes on in Bucyrus.
For the record, we are trying to remove that position
Yeah.
out and making it
You got the
unclassified.
Service Department Foreman, comes to meetings, sits over there. If there's a question for him, you don't have him come up to the podium. He'll sit over there and answer it. Is he a supervisor or not?
Al, he has an answer for you on that question.
Yeah, several meetings ago, we were, it's in the works. We're trying to get that position out of the union. We're trying to make it unclassified.
It's only been how many years?
I've only been here 8 months.
I give you credit, sir. You know,
We're getting it done.
okay? That should never be.
Kurt Fankhauser again, 1415 Michigan Drive. I want to talk about the street levy. I feel like I need to explain some stuff because I'm the person that started the pack of voting no against the street levy. And I've been accused of things, of malicious intent with that, which is not true. Okay? So, early last year, when, we seen that the city needed to produce revenue, the whole out-of-town tax credit thing was brought up. And I will admit, I was one of the ones bringing up the out-of-town tax credit, okay? Now, I will also admit, a year later now, the out-of-town tax credit is not what the will of the citizens are. So, I don't want to touch that out-of-town tax credit, okay? If it ever came down to a tie vote and I had to break it, I'm voting no on messing with the out-of-town tax credit, okay? And that is after having, half a year, almost a year worth of, I've had several emails come through, and it's people, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, all saying, please, we do not want you to mess with our out-of-town tax credit. Okay. Now, what did this council do? They left it in committee. They should have took it out of the Finance Committee. No, they left that thing in there all last year, okay? If you guys weren't going to mess with it, you should have took it out of committee, okay? So here we are right now, okay? Street levy's up for renewal, and there was some talk about the out-of-town tax credit again, and I think what's happening here is the tax credit is being dangled like a carrot, and people are telling her, the city's telling these people, okay, if you do vote for our levy, then we won't touch the credit. But that's been used multiple times against the out-of-towners, and at this point in time, it's time for the out-of-towners to dangle it back. And this is how they need to do it. Okay? I'm telling the out-of-towners, vote that levy down. Vote that levy down, but bring it back in November as a 2-year instead of a 6-year. Then the out-of-towners can dangle right back at you guys for having what you've done to them for this whole last multiple years. And then the out-of-towners will finally have leverage to where if you mess with their credit, within 24 months they could fail that street levy again. That's my position on that thing, and there's a bunch of other people with me on that. Okay? I don't think a 2-year levy is going to be any different as far as the budgeting process on road projects. I think that's going to give the city enough foreplanning that you can look out the next year or two. You're still going to be able to do it. I talked to somebody down in Columbus, and they were shocked when they heard that we had a 6-year street levy. They thought that was excessive term length of a levy that was not permanent. So,
Can I ask who you spoke to in Columbus?
personal friend of mine.
Okay. What experience do they have?
They work for a very high-level state.
Okay. If you would like
Government
to
official.
connect me with them, I'd be happy to talk with them and see what
Well,
their
and
plans
I'll
are.
tell you what else they told me. Because I told them that we're doing our own trash service still in Bucyrus, and they said, well, you're one of the few that still is. They said most cities contract that out, And they said, do you know that when you contract out your trash service, you can charge a franchise fee to the trash private company, and that franchise fee can go straight into the general fund. So I was totally unaware of that when they told me that. And then I started running some calculations. So we're charging $18 a month, I think, for trash per household in the city right now. Is it 16?
16, I think.
Was it 16 and then went up to 18?
Okay, my apologies.
Okay, so let's say you got competitive companies to bid on doing trash in Bucyrus, and let's say they come out to some amount less than the 18, okay? You could charge that difference as a franchise fee. You could then collect that from the trash hauler, and the citizens' bills didn't go up, and now all of a sudden, you have money that you can put in the general fund.
I would love to speak with that person. That sounds like a wonderful idea.
And I've ran this by, I've told Brandon about it, I told Chris about it, I told the mayor about it. I was going to tell you about it outside the meeting, but I feel like it's just well to get everybody on the same page, just tell them all at the same time.
Can I ask, do you know if that's going to increase the prices if we go to a pub or a private, like Rumpke or something like that?
Well,
Would it
okay, so
increase
here's
the
where I'm at
prices?
with it, okay? We are a government institution doing trash for $18 a month, okay? I would assume that a private company, because they don't have to have unions and that type of stuff, they're gonna be able to do it for less.
Well, you know what they
okay?
say
'Cause
about
we're
assuming.
gonna be the highest cost. So if we're doing it for the 18, private companies can do it for less.
So where do you think that money's coming that's going into the general fund? It's gonna be an increase.
No, I said if you bid the trash out and the private companies come in and they do it less than the 18 we're charging our residents now, you could then charge their franchise fee, whatever, to get it back up to where it's 18 so that the customers all still paying the same.
Isn't Rumpke already charging more than we are?
Yeah.
Well, it's out in the county they are. But when you start collecting trash in town, you gotta think, you have less travel distance between each house. So they're gonna be more competitive doing an in-town service versus an out in the county service. And statewide on trash is $29, statewide average. So we're already under. So I'm trying to help you guys. We need revenue. I'm offering suggestions so that I can help be a part of the solution.
And if
Thank
you
you.
could, truly, if you could contact me with that person, I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
And help us remember to refer that topic to service at our next meeting.
And to be clear, there is, nobody in council is dangling that 2% thing over any out-of-town workers. None of us ever have, none of us will. It's on open projects for a reason. Quite frankly, it was just an oversight of my thought to take it on or not take it on there. We get asked every meeting, anything want to be brought up on open projects? Nobody said yes, bring it up. So it's on there, it's on there. We got stuff on there 10 years old. Still an open project. You were bringing it up today. Nobody's dangling any carrots over any out-of-town workers over this 2% tax credit. No one is. Not in here. Not in this finance committee. Sorry.
Clarissa Slater, 3645 State Route 4. I think this is going to be an administrative question, but just to put it on this record, since it's being talked about, does the trash guys also do they do other things, right?
They do. They're snow plowers in the winter when snow comes in,
So we'd have to contract out snowplow.
some of it
We'd have to have we'd have to pay for someone to come and do our roads if we,
possibly, or they just wouldn't get done.
what else would we have to do?
Salt,
Salt
yeah, they do some of the mowing.
and the mowing? So we would have to pay for mowing, salting, and plowing. And we have a street sweeper, don't we?
We do. It hits the streets department.
That's the streets department, okay. And then my other question was, because I know this all really, I've been informed that this has been coming up for years with the tax credit, that it keeps being revisited. But in this council, the first meeting that everybody lost in January, I know there was a presentation done. I know you were part of the presentation. How'd that come about? Like, how did we end up with a giant presentation about, because I remember someone standing up here, and I believe it was Kurt, that said, we're going to have to take the whole thing. But was that what spurred the whole conversation in the presentation, or what was brought about that it even got brought up?
There was a special committee meeting, finance committee meeting that was called. It was not at my request. I believe it was requested by I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was council or if it was the mayor who would have requested that meeting.
Okay, because I mean, I do know that there's video footage of Kurt saying that we need to take the whole thing, and he was standing at this podium. And I didn't know if that's what spurred it, or if it was spurred through conversation with admin, or if someone in finance requested that meeting. Did anyone request that meeting? Did you request that meeting?
I cannot recall.
Okay.
That was a long time ago.
It was, but this has been going on since that first meeting. I really feel like that kind of like hacked us when it comes to this perception that you guys want to take it, was because the council president sat up here and said that we have to take it. So, just an observation.
Thank you.
Logan Beeman, Freewire. Kaylee, when the trash, so they're not making a profit, correct? They're just
We don't try to really make a profit on anything. We try to just maintain
trying to
the fund.
break even, essentially, yeah. So I would be careful when you're talking about, you're making an assumption that a private company can do something cheaper than the government when you're adding a profit margin. I mean, it's all well and good. Again, like you said, assuming where that gets you. So again, I would caution dangerous thinking like that.
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. So you're telling me that the tax credit is in their open projects. Why don't we just take it off the books right now?
We can discuss that.
Somebody wants to make a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion to take it off there right now.
Do I hear a second? Motion dies without a second.
That shows the people where you guys stand. Second of all, even if we went to private trash hauling, okay, and actually looked at that seriously, we could hire seasonal employees to help mow, plow snow, salt roads, just like ODOT does. They have a tremendous program of seasonal employees that they have 6 months contracts with these people, and they're paid a certain amount of money. And if this is good enough for the state, why can't we look into that as helping out the budget?
Can I ask if you know if they contract out with like third-party contractor companies or with individuals?
No, they're hired as seasonal employees through the state of Ohio.
Okay.
They have done it for years now.
Okay.
They hire usually from March to September and September to March or whatever it is. They hire seasonal employees. Yes, you have to have a CDLB in some of the positions, but they hire mostly people that can go out and mow grass, help put up signs, do maintenance or whatever, and they also put seasonal employees out and plow snow and salt the roads. So, I mean, that's a cost savings to the state, but they don't infringe on the number of employees under the union contract. This is what they additionally need, that they hire this. And every district in the state of Ohio hires this. It's always on their website every year for I know at least the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay. I truly do appreciate the information. Depending on how the levy goes, that information may end up being very helpful.
Because, I mean, it's a job description, it's everything. I mean, matter of fact, if you were going up Route 4, prior to wintertime, they had the big electronic sign out there saying seasonal employees, CDLB license. And matter of fact, I think they also, and don't quote me on this, but I think they have a program too to help people get their CDLBs, okay? But they mostly try to work with people who already have it, and it is not a bad job. They're really not bad jobs. And like I said, they post those in every district, every county. They post all that, and it's right on the ODOT website. Thank you.
So Tommy and Kaylee, you'll take that under consideration and research that for us? Thank you.
Kurt Fankhauser again. So, okay, Rumpke, we had a speaker up here before, he's sitting over there. Rumpke is controlling the landfill right now. One of our biggest expenses in the solid waste is the tonnage fees to dump at that landfill. If Rumpke is the trash hauler, you think they're charging themselves to dump at the landfill that they run? No, they're not charging themselves. Okay, so that's where the savings is going to come in.
Kurt, I just want to throw something out because I asked this question and I want to tell you the answer I got just so it's out there and see what your thoughts are on it. I asked that same question because when the county made that deal with Rumpke, I thought, well, they're going to fill that thing up in just a few years, and then our trash is going to need to be hauled further and further away. What I found out was that Rumpke owns the next couple closest landfills. They're not government owned. And so they would potentially try to haul, this is what I was told, if we did that, they would potentially try to haul further away now, charging us as customers even more. So.
Well, you're going to have to put it out to bid and get multiple trash companies involved in order to be competitive. I would not just talk to just one. Let the free market work by putting it out to bid. And, okay, so the councilwoman back there, she brung up utilizing of the trash, solid waste employees for street plowing. So this is how that works, is my understanding, is they're paid out of solid waste until they're pulled off of the solid waste stuff and put in another truck, maybe doing street stuff. And then once that happens, they're starting to get paid out of the other funds, right?
So certain employees in the billet are split. I'd have to look at the billet to tell you what every single employee splits are. Some of them, they don't have to do that because those splits kind of take care of it, and it's just understood, okay, they work here sometime, here sometime, here sometime. But if they're paid fully out of a fund and then go to do work in a different fund, they're supposed to note it on their timesheet, so then we correct and pay them out of the correct fund.
So when we get a really big snowstorm and, you know, you got to have every truck the city's got out on the road, and you obviously don't have enough manpower to the street fund. There's only 3 full-time in that, right?
I'm not certain.
I thought there was 3, but what they do is they start pulling out of other departments, water, sewer, trash, and then they're not getting paid out of the sewer fund anymore or the water fund anymore because they're now plowing the road, so they're getting paid out of, I'm assuming, the gas excise tax.
Yeah.
Mostly, since you've already stated we can't use street levy funds for personnel. So basically, if you didn't have the solid waste employees anymore on staff because it was being outsourced with Rumpke, you still have the other departments, water, sewer, to pull personnel for to do the plowing. Plus, if you want to do what Mr. White says, you could add some part-time positions, like ODOT does. So, does that sound?
That's true. The only thing is that if we would lose the money in the street fund, it would significantly reduce the amount we could pay those people and the amount of streets that could be plowed.
I thought you said that the street levy couldn't be used for personnel.
It can't, but the thing, like any fund, if you lose this money, then that means streets still have to be paid. So now if you're going to materials and supplies, part of what we would have used for personal services from that gasoline excise tax then has to be moved to materials and supplies or capital outlay. So you're taking from what would have been used for personal services and putting the other places where we lost the levy money.
So if the levy was to fail in May, we're still going to collect up until the end of June this year, the levy, plus we're still gonna have all of the gas excise and the registration stuff. So it wouldn't be as impactful as a full year of not receiving the levy money if we only didn't get it for half of this year and then pass it again in November. So this whole, oh my God, the sky is falling and we're not gonna get the roads plowed, it's not going to be like that this year. Okay.
But I think you are smart enough to know that passing a renewal is much easier than passing a new tax, and it would be a new tax.
Okay, so that brings up some of the original wording in the original levy does have issues that has come up over the years. So the way it's worded now, it can't be used for parking lots. It can't be used for sidewalks, okay? So like when we have the city lots that need paved, we always got to use
general fund money.
General fund money. I don't know if the gas excise can be used for that. But so in actuality, if the levy is failed in May, it could be reintroduced in November and those two items can be reworded in there so that it can be used for the parking lots. It can be used for sidewalks. I'd like to see some sidewalk improvements in this town.
Can we assume that you would campaign heavily for that levy's passage?
Yeah, yeah. If you bring it back as a 2-year only, that's the only way I'll be in favor of it.
You'll buy a bunch of signs to put up for that? Just asking. You don't have to answer.
I've got a lot of money wrapped up in signs now.
I think we're
I don't
aware.
know if I'm going to have.
You're very aware.
Okay.
Oh, that's you?
All right, anything
Just
further,
say
Mr.
no.
Fankhauser?
Just say no.
Can I say really quickly?
You
that
sure can.
Most capital outlay plans, when a municipality creates them, and I believe, I don't remember who said it earlier, that typically the road plans, we plan it for 5 years. Try to for 5 years. Most capital outlay, capital asset plans are 5-year plans. So it's hard to plan when we're only getting a 2-year levy. And then, like I had said previously, to not be able to ensure that to hire people, I just think it would be difficult to hire people and not be able to at least say, oh, you're going to have a job for more than 2 years. Once again, even though that levy doesn't go to personal services, that money will change, and we would have to take the personal services money. If in 2 years you were to run it and were to fail, you would have to take that money, move it, and then lay off again, if that makes sense. It would just, a 2-year levy would be very difficult to plan around.
Mr. Frazier.
Al Frazier, 720 Dudley Street. Solid waste, Mr. Fankhauser brought up solid waste, so. I'm here to tell you, the garbage men are the hardest working guys in this town. You can say whatever you want about a garbage man, but they're out there every day hitting it on the streets. And I brought up health and safety. We got garbage men going through town and hanging on the back of a garbage truck. No hard hat, no goggles, all you ever see any city employee is a neon shirt. That's it, okay? Who actually controls our landfill?
Rumpke, to my knowledge. Rumpke, to my knowledge.
No, wrong. Who oversees the landfill?
There you go.
The county.
The county commissioners.
Yeah.
When's the last time any of you attended a county commissioners meeting? My last time up here, I recommended or suggested that a council member be present at every county commissioners meeting. So we know, we have a clue what's going on. Because they're controlling the landfill. Rumpke is making the money off of the landfill. Santec made millions off of our landfill and left. Rumpke's going to do the same thing. And we're going to be stuck with a waste station or something like that, okay? So that's my recommendation. If we want to know more about the landfill and who operates it, start attending some county meetings, okay? And last committee meeting, we had the fellow up here from the partnership. He talked for 15 or 20 minutes about how great they are. how much wonderful work they're doing for the county and us. Okay? When's the last time any of you attended any of that? And he got up here and openly stated when he started talking, he didn't really want the job. Okay? Who's leading us? Attend some other meetings, people. It don't have to be the same person. Put it on a rotating basis. Every county commissioner meeting should be a representative from the city of Bucyrus there. Thank you.
All right. We will adjourn at 8:05 PM.